I'll straight away get into the topic. We have LP here. No one other than LP can talk about multicultural marketing with a diverse country with segmented culture that we have in front of us. And with LP, we'll talk about upcoming festival season. How you have planned multicultural marketing and why you see more need for multicultural marketing at this point in time and how you have done in your credential.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks, Balaji. So first of all, I'm thrilled to be here, and as you rightly said that we are now getting into a festive season. The biggest thing is that actually after the 2-year hiatus, all of us are getting back to the festive season, and as we know that last couple of years it has not been very good. So if you look at in a country like India, today many people talk about the kind of diversity, and all of us know that. If you look at India as a country, it is a country of countries. We as Reliance Retail has got more than 3,000 stores spread across more than almost close to 1,000 odd cities. And the serious challenge actually we face is that when you are present across such a diverse geography, as a marketing team, how do you bring, how do you actually appeal to this consumer? And without actually, if you make a single message, then it's very easy to communicate. But you need to finally, ensure that each consumer gets the message. When I'm getting into this festive season, as you know, Shraddha is getting over on 25th. Now the festive period actually is from first day of Navratri starting from 26th of September this year all the way up to Bhoi, after Diwali, which is 25th. The 20-day festive period actually, almost a month actually. Now the biggest thing is that the second part is Diwali, almost everywhere we celebrate Diwali. But when you look at the first part of the festive phase, such a beautiful country we are. In Gujarat it is called Navratri, in West Bengal it is called Durga Puja or Pujo. In Andhra Pradesh it is called Dasara, in Karnataka it is called Dasara, and Vijayadashami in Kerala. Now it is just not the name, the essence of the festival may be same, but everywhere it is celebrated in a different way and the consumer is different, and that is actually the beauty. One of the biggest thing I feel as a retailer, what we have understood is that, because we have been in the business for the last 17 years, in 2006 we started our business. When you are present in the store or in the catchment, your universe is actually 10 kilometers around you. Whatever happens around the world does not matter. My universe is this. And you as a retailer, actually you live and breathe in that community. So this is a physical retail store and consumer come here, over a period of time they engage and they become very emotional about this. So the three things actually extremely important for us, Balaji. One is that we have a deep understanding of this consumer that who sees coming to the store over and over again for the last several years. We have the data to know what they are buying, And this data has been harnessed over 15 years, every festival, what kind of product category. So we are talking about multicultural marketing. It is not just about a marketing department's responsibility. It is the responsibility of an organization to actually, step up to meet the consumer needs. So what do we do? So if it is Navratri, we know this is a fasting period for majority of the North Indians and the Gujarati community, let's say. If it is Bengal, it is feasting, it's not fasting. Okay, in the 9 days, they will be actually having massive consumption. There is apparel, somewhere it will be selling, somewhere it will be selling kutu atta, or sendana. Understanding this, engaging with our merchandising team, and then creating every customer, whatever she is requiring, all these items getting it. And then finally, keeping it in terms and terms in the store. This is about the merchandising team getting a brief from the marketing team well in advance to create products. Now your store is there. During, let's say, Navratri, you like to take up a store. You will be wearing probably the dresses every other day. When you go to a store, it has to also appeal to the consumer. The same kind of theater you need to create. If it is Navratri in Gujarat, the kind of visual merchandising, the kind of store take-up I will do, completely different I will do in Durga Puja in Bengal. And similarly different in South. Now this is regarding the store, theater, the merchandise. So what is about marketing? Finally, when you communicate with this customer, you need to keep in mind that who is my TG, what she looks for, what are the, so suppose, if I'm in Bengal, I know it is all about, Dhakebadi or the corn will be there in the signaling. If it is, let's say, Gudi Padwa, marigold flower, if it is Ugadi, there will be raw mango in the mnemonics. So the color, the visual symbols, the signals, the model selection, the copy, everything falls in place so that your communication is completely in sync with your customer. This can only happen when you understand this customer thoroughly well. If you do not understand, there is a high chance that you will go and make error. So when we see this, it is understanding the consumer through research and data, knowing the finer nuances, and then marrying into finally the product, the assortment you are providing. And that is how we try to give you this magic. So that the communication is also very specifically targeted. I'll just give an example. All of us know that Durga Puja is happening. In Delhi there is something called Chittaranjan Park. There are a lot of Bengalis there. So Durga, entire Delhi will be celebrating probably something like Navaratri, but Chittaranjan Park will be celebrating Pooja. Today in Mumbai we will be celebrating Navaratri, but October there is a lot of Gujaratis who will be celebrating maybe also Navaratri, Yeah, in Onam will be celebrated in Navi Mumbai in general. So the whole point is, understanding your catchment. We do a research for every store before they open, 3 communities. We do a research before opening. And we leverage this data in a 10-kilometer radius. What is the mix of the population? So before we set up a store, we understand and capture their need as far as product assortment is concerned. And that is how the store does not look alien to us. And that's how we bring about, the entire seamless thing. So I hope I answered your question.
So it's not about marketing, it is about creating understanding the merchandise and also driving the marketing based on the teaching that you have created, based on the wealth of data that you have created over a period of time. So now it's on the cultural side of it. I'm going to say this. With the personal care brand, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. How that plays a role when it comes to the multicultural marketing?
So yeah, I think all these 3 terms, which is diversity, inclusion, and equity, I think they're a much larger set of terms. And therefore, the question is that what is the role that they play in marketing as we see? And I think when you're looking at this in marketing, I think what we just saw or what we just heard was one aspect of diversity, which is people come from different cultural backgrounds, they have different beliefs. I think in the previous conversation we spoke about segmentation moving from demographic to psychographic to humanizing it, etc. I think there's another way, which is essentially when you're saying diversity, which essentially means that you have people who think differently. That's fundamentally what diversity is, and there can be many manifestations of that. Equity and inclusion is how do you give them equal opportunity and get them into the ecosystem. How do you provide a solution for them? So I think one more way of looking at diversity is how, and it's increasingly happening amongst the millennials and the younger generation, is what are your values in terms of what do you value? And I think what's happening is consumers are really looking at brands and saying that we will only buy you if you support the value system that we have. And I think that's another way that this whole piece is actually coming in. And the whole challenge then is for marketers to be sensitive to that. And I think that opens up a host of things as how do you determine those values? How do you craft a marketing messaging? So for example, if I were to take something to which I'm close to from my company, which is, increasingly consumers are saying that we do not want to destroy the environment, or we know that commercialization and economic progress has one negative impact, which is it destroys the environment. And I can tell you that, I have a young daughter. She's far more environmentally sensitive than I am or I was at her age. So I think new consumers, younger consumers are becoming sensitive to that. So as a brand, for example, we say that if you buy any product from our website, you will plant a tree. Or for that matter, we understand that our product is packaged in plastics, Unfortunately, there's no other solution, but we'll be a plastic neutral company. That means we will recycle as much plastic as we consume. Now, these are values that we are trying to talk about, and hopefully they resonate with a lot of young consumers, and therefore that becomes an easy point of entry for them. I think what you also see is across the world, the role of purpose-led brands is really going up. It's not just a trend that's happening in the West, but increasingly in India we are seeing that purpose-led brands are actually coming in every sphere, and that is how they are connecting with consumers. So I think that is at least my take on what diversity, inclusion, and equity actually means.
You said purpose-led brands. On this diversity part, the LP was talking more about the pin code level or a 10 kilometers radius. And, diversity is not about, it's a wide range. But when it comes to this wide range, diversity, 10 kilometers, are we not getting into micro segmentation? If it is micro segmentation, then how do you assemble the sum of parts to equal? That's going to be the major challenge. So what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was many years ago, when I studied most of my marketing, we said segmentation, and we said when you look for segments, look for the biggest segments, and then we said look for homogeneous segments. Now, over the years, actually, all that is being rewritten. And a lot of that is happening because technology and digitization is actually supporting us. So today we are talking about segmentation to the power of one, which is where we are saying that every consumer is different. How do we address those needs and therefore create micro segments and things like that? So I think two things. I think the first one is, I think, LP also spoke about it, how it's not just he began by first saying that, of course, there are regional differences, and then he said there are pockets of those differences within. So, there may be a certain cultural segment sitting in Bombay, which is not traditionally from there, and then how do you continue to feed them? I think that's where digitization really helps us, where we are able to gather and record data of consumer preferences at a single unit level, and then be able to respond to them. In fact, there was a slide, the last slide on the previous presentation actually gave a very nice journey by which brands could actually interact with their consumers, understand their preferences, and then modify their communication on the basis of that. And today, digitization actually enables us to do that. I think the second choice is in media. Traditionally we used very wide-reaching and broad media. And the whole thing was all about reach, how do you reach more and more people. Today it's about how do you segment your message. So when I spoke about how do you build content which is relevant to the segment of people that you want to talk to. And the second piece is how do you actually deliver that content. And increasingly again, what's happening is if you look at the whole media landscape has changed from influencers suddenly becoming such a large and important segment. So we as a brand actually, before we went on to traditional messaging, actually relied heavily on influencers, and it kind of worked for us. So we spoke about no chemicals in our products, about plastic neutrality, etc. Who were these people? These were young people. These were young people who were on the internet, right? And they were actually not on traditional media. So the influencers were able to talk to them, and these people understood that this is what the brand stands for, and then they would buy online. So it was a nice circle that got created, and that's how at a very low cost, at a very efficient level, you could reach out to consumers and you could also complete the transaction. So that's been the role of digitization and how that's helped us. Again, a lot of these consumers don't want to be spoken to, therefore they would prefer an influencer versus, like a large ad.
Thank you. Coming to this media part of it, the media choices have changed. When it comes to multicultural marketing, the media choices that you have made, and with your recent Onam video going viral, and give us a perspective about this multicultural marketing, micro level segmentation to achieve that, and also the media choices that you make.
So, Balaji, actually, if you look at, we are actually have been in marketing for the last 2 decades. If you look at, before actually Geo came, not from, I'm from Reliance, that I'm saying this, but in 2016, there's been a dramatic change in the way the adoption of, digital has happened. So, in my earlier avatar, if I used to look at, I used to do if I do a film, I would do a television for South, and one for East, one for West, and one for North, or maybe North and West would be one in the dominant market. Now look at the cost of production of a television ad, then you probably still won't be able to do an isolation because Tamil Nadu will be on Sun TV, you have to take, you can't live without that, and then in Karnataka something else you have to take. So the cost and the complexity involved for a marketer was dramatically high. Today people say that segmentation and consumer are fragmented, but I think actually is a much easier life. I'll tell you why. Now, I believe today digital has dramatically eased my life. So how? Today, recently for Durga Pooja and Onam, I did a very low cost digital film. So there are two facts. One is that you need to drive business, you need to drive revenue. That's one of the objectives. Second, as part of the multicultural strategy, you need to connect very closely with your consumer, emotionally touch them. If you emotionally appeal to them, you know the root to the heart, and then finally you will reach the wallet. Okay? Everybody understands that, right? So, emotionally engage, if I have a right content strategy, creating a very powerful video, low cost maybe, then WhatsApp really will viral. Okay? So I don't need to spend too much money on that. Now why I am saying this? So I can understand that, like we were talking 3 minutes back, Malayal is at a high number in Navi Mumbai. We have a store. This is in Mumbai. Our store assortment has all the products from Kerala. Patavadi rice, Sunda rice, and all that. I am not a Kerala, but I know all this. What we do, I can now clearly take the store 5 kilometer radius, do communication in Malayalam language, take the relevant products, target them, because I also know the consumer who are shopping, because we have a loyalty database, first party data built over a period of 15 years. Every consumer coming, mother tongue we know, ethnicity we know, critical festival for them we know. So our targeting is extremely sharp, whether targeting somebody in Bhopal who might be from Karnataka or a Kerala in Mumbai or a Bengali in Chennai is possible for me today. Digital marketing, whether it is transactional marketing, focused communication, directly reaching the customer is one. I also take care of Geomart apart from the retail store, so I am showing him an offer in Mumbai. The moment you click it, you land into transact, right? The second thing is that we are also, whether it is direct marketing or digital marketing, we are very focused in our approach. And when you talk about the relevance of the festival, I was sometime back talking to you, video film in Ramzan. Okay? What happened is that large section of the Muslim community also came back and connected to me across Facebook, LinkedIn. So you can see that how you can emotionally connect when you are winning over the heart. It became very, very viral. This is China 2017, you are winning the hearts and the minds, emotionally connecting. I always believe that if you emotionally connect with the consumer, you actually very easily get a, root to the wallet. It does not actually, it is not a very big rocket science. Today the media has given me this opportunity at a very low cost level. I can emotionally connect, at the same time I can drive business. Which is driving revenue. This would not have been possible. On the entire answer money I have spent, brand building, attribution product. So that is what is helping today. Once understanding the data, direct marketing approach, proper segmentation, knowing where your consumer stays, what is he consuming, right time and right consumer is targeted for me to bring them to the site or to my store, and then I am doing it. And also layering that with an emotional blanket to say that, this brand is standing for me or I am emotionally attached. If we go, because absolutely, there was a study in New York, which was asked, two brands are exactly the same, it came in out actually. Everything same, how you should choose. A brand which is standing for like what, he said about opposite brand or emotionally appealing to me, then I will swing there. Nothing separately, everything same, this brand is making sense for me. That's why I believe that today the media actually is complex. Articles also become, in a way, it is actually helping us because I am able to find more better measurement, great ROI, proper targeting.
We have 1 minute left, but I want to ask the final question to you. With your brand getting traditional and modern combining together, how do you see the consumers taking that natural aspect? When you touch about the tradition, we were talking about multiple products of like, but how it happens when it comes to marketing and the tradition, the humanizing part of it, saying that my Dadi used to do it, that creates an impact.
Yeah, I think, briefly, I think in marketing a lot of times you don't have to say everything. And you will get, the fact is that you will get very little time to communicate with your consumers. And therefore, how do you actually add value to them? So I think the example that you talk about modern tradition again is something which our brand stands for, which is essentially in our tradition. There are some concepts which have actually a scientific basis, and how do we bring them alive? So the point being that some of these concepts have existed in our tradition, but how do you then create a brand out of that? How do you then create a business out of that? And therefore this, again, if you were to take my brand's example, what we essentially did was that, if hair fall is a common problem, a lot of brands were coming up with chemical solutions and things like that. And we said, no, there is a solution in our tradition which actually has a very strong scientific basis. And therefore we created a product with that. And then suddenly we saw that consumers actually resonate with that thought. And at that point in time, then they have a very positive predisposition to your brand, and the rest of course is history.
So, thank you so much. We are 1 minute over the stipulated time. We can open up for questions. One question. Anyone want to?